humongous shake with what's going to be the next episode in my Blaster Throwback series. Of course, it is, as always, for those of you who are new to it and catching it for the first time, it is, yes, inspired by Walcom S7's Tagback series. Mine's the Blaster Throwback series. Took inspiration from him. I'm making my own series with my own takes, my own opinions, basically my own spin on things. And of course, as you can easily tell in front of you, the Vulcan is the topic of discussion today. Now, the Vulcan, of course, was an N-Strike series blaster that was introduced along with the Stampede, and the Stampede being the mag-fed kind of rifled version, and the Vulcan being the belt or chain-fed heavy machine gun styled. And it featured a novel idea of the fact that these are not flywheel powered blasters, even though they're full auto. They actually have a gearbox that cycles a spring powered system, so yes, it is actually a Springer. And the cool thing is, I'll have to be careful with this because I am one-armed, you can prime the bolt much like you would, say, a long shot, long strike, or in modern day the Raptor strike, or so on and so forth. You can prime that back and fire it without ever even turning on the blaster's power system. But it did carry a 25 round belt in a ammo box, which is over here. You flip open the lid, flip open the ammo box lid, and throw your belt in. Make sure it's indexed into there. Close your ammo box, close your cover, and flip open the switch cover here, toggle it on, pull the trigger, and fire full auto. The power of the Vulcan is not great. It is an N-Strike series blaster. You can expect well below elite standards, as well as a little bit of a possibly disappointing rate of fire compared to modern day blasters like the Nerf Infamous Hyperfire or even the new Titan minigun style blaster. But what you got was a tripod mounted heavy machine gun. Oh, and by the way, it did have a little flip up sight. Just funny. But it also had a multitude of rails. Now you can do multiple things with this blaster. You can disconnect the tripod and carry it around with a sling and fire it kind of from the hip, or mount it up like this and become a guard of, say, a team's flag if you're playing Capture the Flag or King of the Hill. Mount this thing up behind some cover and you have a good suppressive fire blaster, which you can modify them with afterburners now that's kind of come into commonplace use. You can upgrade the spring rates on them, which will get a little bit more power but a low cyclic rate of fire. You can hook them up to rechargeable battery packs and upvolt them a little bit after you've rewired them and gain a little more performance. But you can do all that. The point of the Vulcan is that it was a novel idea that worked. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give some opinions on what I think Nerf should have done instead of chasing other ideas. But the Vulcan is a top 10 blaster, at least on my list of favorite blasters, because of what it represented. A unique idea. One other blaster on the market that had came and gone at this point now, and I still would love to get my hands on one, is the Busby Overlord. They were the two competing tripod-mounted heavy machine gun blasters. And the Vulcan was very, very good. The Overlord from Busby did the same thing, but now both of them have come and gone. The Vulcan is such a unique blaster, can be used so many ways. Even I can use it right now, and I can't prime a blaster, but I can single-handedly, and this is something to keep in mind if you find these thrifted, grab them up. Even little kids can use these things because you can just flip this up, throw that in, line up your loaded belt, put it in, and close everything down, and again, flip it to full auto, grab your handle, and you can just sit here and fire like this. And you can just lay down nice fire. And that's something that most blasters would struggle with. Because normally you gotta change out mags and all that while holding it. This, sitting on a tripod. I got 2 of these red totes here I'm using as a table in front of me. This is a setup. I kneel behind it sometimes and use this to cover a flag. Which, you know, carry my own primary on my back as well. Not now, but normally. But you can put up a couple of these near a flag, you know, set one up at each team's base, and there's your defensive point. And you can even throw shields on the rails, which I'll do that right now, like this modulus shield right here. I have to be careful. I can still only use, I've gained the use of my thumb and index finger, but that's all I can use. You can throw the shields on. Now, we don't count blasters as hits. We don't. It's just not something we do. But you can throw shields on like that, and then the profile you're giving somebody, there's not a whole lot of body, even with me sitting out in the open like this. That's not a whole lot of exposed body. Now picture being knelt down behind the 2 red totes, plus having this Vulcan in front of you with shields. That's a pretty nice defensive point. And then of course these are your normal edge strike rails, so they're compatible with all kinds of accessories like all the Nerf flashlights and whatnot. There we go. Pop that off. But getting to the point of my opinion of what Nerf should have done. I think they should have just released an updated Vulcan, or for those of you across the pond, I believe it was called the Havoc Fire. Correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that's what it was. But with updated internals that could hit elite standards, with a better rate of fire, and using the same belt. I don't want to see Hasbro reintroduce the Vulcan with a different belt that's not compatible. I want to see a chain on this thing that is exactly the same as the previous one. Don't pull a Mag Strike on us, where the new Icon Mag Strike doesn't have the same clip as the old one. They're not completely interchangeable back and forth. I believe it's the old one can't use the new clips, or the new one can't use the old clips. I forget which. I'm not as huge of a Mag Strike fan because I've got Busby Destinies and it's better in every single which way and shape and form. But the Vulcan, I would love to see this thing introduced as one of the Icon series blasters. I mean, they brought the Stampede as one. Bring the Vulcan back, because it doesn't get much more iconic than the Vulcan for the older blasters. Big Bad Bo would have been one to bring back on the Icon series, but they didn't do that either. But these are truly iconic blasters with the Vulcan and the Havoc Fire. And I guess it's just, this is one of the blasters that really got me into Nerf. I had a Big Bad Bo, that's why I mentioned it, in the Maverick. And, you know, I just wish that they would do something with this instead of making things like the highly overpriced Titan. Yeah, it's neat in its own right, but I would rather have just seen an updated Vulcan, just for all honesty. But in this Blaster Throwback series, I just want to take a look at blasters who had their day in the past, and even if they aren't relevant today, they can always be modded to be. But it's mainly just for blasters that had a special place with me. And the Vulcan for me was always one of my favorite Nerf blasters, and always will be. I've got 3 of them, would love to get a couple more. I'd love to modify at least one of them. I got one set aside that's got some firing issues that I'm going to do a full tear down, rewire, and a paint job on it probably next spring. Because right now, being injured and having finances being tight, with the season coming to an end as far as summer wise, I'll probably put that off till next spring. But that will be something on the channel at some point. It will be a full Vulcan build. And I actually really look forward to doing that. It's going to be an extensive project, but like I said, the Vulcan holds a special place in my heart. It reminds me of the kid in me, which I'm just a big kid. I make no attempt to hide that. But it's a fun blaster, and if you find one thrifting, there's no reason to ever pass one of these up. unless you've already got too many of them. But if you see one and it's reasonable priced, grab it. It's a fun piece that I guarantee you, even if you're not a serious person into Nerf, if you just like to mess around with them, there's not too many people that won't have fun holding down a choke point, spitting out darts, and reloading a belt out of this thing, feeling like they're a soldier on the front lines. And that was the whole point of it. Fun, and it may be a little silly and impractical, but who cares? This is Manga Shake with my Blaster Throwback series. I do hope you enjoyed this about the Vulcan, and I will actually be doing another one fairly soon. I have a couple more blasters that I really want to touch on, and, well, to be honest, I can do these videos right now while I'm recovering. So I may do a couple of more Blaster Throwback series a little faster than normal. So I do thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more.